And you can later tonight go to Infowars.com. We'll have the video of this posted, even if you're not watching us live and just listening, because this isn't science fiction. This is the real world, and they're saying women shouldn't have children for a couple of years. In these countries now, is it a scare to not have kids? Is that the population control? Causes deformities in children? Here to tell us what the virus does, what he really thinks is happening, and who the main suspects are, if it's a bioweapon, is Professor Francis Anthony Boyle. Sir, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, Alex, thank you very much for having me on, and my best to your viewing audience.
Thank you, sir. You've got the floor. Go ahead and tell us what you think's going on here.
Well, of course, I have no inside information. I've just been dealing with reputable news media sources from around the world, but it does seem to me and to others, another expert friend of mine, that what we are dealing with here is some type of biowarfare agent that has been genetically modified, GMO. So for that reason, you really can't believe anything the WHO, the Pan American Health Organization, the CDC is telling you. It also appears, as you correctly point out, that Gates was involved in this. Bill Engdahl has the book on Gates that he's basically a genocidalist. He does have people on his staff with experience having done what I call death science, life scientists who do biowarfare work. It appears that the U.S. Advanced Biowarfare Facility at Galveston was involved. It also appears that the BSL-4 facility at Colorado State that works with GMOing mosquitoes was involved, and that this British high-tech firm Oxitec was involved. What is critical here is that I believe it was the summer of 2004, there was a scholarly paper published saying that these genetically modified mosquitoes could be dangerous if they were released. And despite this knowledge, they were released both in Brazil and also in Colombia, deliberately and maliciously. Now, why Brazil and Colombia? Brazil, you hit the Atlantic coast of Latin America, and Colombia, you hit the Pacific coast of Latin America, and you set off a pandemic. So as of now, I think that's what's going on. I'll continue to monitor the situation and act in accordance with the best information I have. But I don't think you should trust anything the CDC, the WHO, the Pan American Health Organization is telling you. They're all in cahoots with Gates. The Brazilian government is in cahoots with Gates. They're all up to their eyeballs in this stuff. Right now, I personally would not be traveling down to Latin America until we have some idea precisely what we are dealing with. And yet I note on Monday, the WHO has convened an emergency meeting where they're going to tell everyone, well, just keep business and travel as usual. I take it they got those instructions from the CDC, and we know full well the nefarious role that the CDC, the WHO, played in the Black West African Ebola pandemic. You and I have already been through that, so I'm not going to go through that here all over again. But it's a very dangerous situation. In fact, another biowarfare expert, formerly the United States government, that I am working with my approval, has informed the administration of the University of Illinois that we don't believe anyone should be traveling down to Latin America for any reason until we know precisely what is going on here. This so-called Zika is also transmitted by sexual intercourse, which I think proves that we have a GMO'd biowarfare agent at work here. And it is also transmitted by saliva. And that indicates to me that we could be dealing with some type of GMO gain of function biowarfare agent, namely that it could jump. I don't know. I'm continuing to monitor the situation, see what I can, but under the circumstances, that's the best I can give you, Alex.
Dr. Boyle, I just read the news every day. Some days upwards of 200 news articles I scan over. And you know, some of the things I obsess on are MIT. I remember 20 years ago reading in an MIT magazine at the University of Texas at the library about growing embryos, and they were implanting them in cows, and that they were breeding a line of cows that were part human so that the cows wouldn't reject it. And then, of course, then a few years later, China started producing cows that produce human milk in their udders. And, of course, they can have goats that are, you know, part spider and produce body armor. I'm giving examples of stuff that's known to be 20, 25 years old. Now they come out 2 weeks ago and go, oh, we're doing it in pigs and sheep now, and, you know, producing, well, they're actually producing humanoids, and then they can grow the organs up bigger in them, and they're now going mainline with it. So there's something 20, 30 years old that I talk about, and they have mainstream media then do articles making fun of me, saying I'm crazy and claim that humanoids are being grown in cows. Doesn't matter if I have 3 MIT articles this year in the last month. Doesn't matter. It's like the public that's informed knows, but they're scientific, maybe 1%, 2%. The general public just thinks it's X-Files. I mean, the episode of X-Files on Monday was human-animal chimeras. And so it's the X-Files. You know, now it's a joke. And so you see the psyop of the establishment. I remember with the HPV vaccine and, you know, all the rest of it, but the you know, that simulant flu shot 6 years ago, which they later admitted was a simulant of the virus put out a year before. I mean, they are engaged in biological testing. You know about the U.S. code where it was authorized for any law enforcement or research purpose. We all know about Tuskegee. I'm giving just well-known examples. There's thousands of admitted radiating little children to death. Other countries do it. There's a mad scientist guild, it seems. Russia did it too, that actually get off on this. We know we brought the rat line over here after World War II from Germany. You have written, you know, the major global treaties. You know the people. You went to the top schools in Chicago, and for folks that don't know, and, you know, and Kissinger and all of it. You know, you were being groomed to be one of them. For new viewers, I just have to add that to your pedigree. What is it with these people? It's not just population reduction. They're clearly running all sorts of weird bio operations against us. It's horrible. Cancer and all this other stuff is exploding. From your expert, wider analysis, what does this warfare operation look like to you? Or are they still in a mass testing phase? What's the end game? And then what do we do about Zika? Obviously, nobody should go down south. Instead, our borders are wide open. I mean, they're just bringing in people with drug-immune TB. What is the end game here of diseasing the whole world?
Well, you've raised an awful lot of issues there.
Yes,
Let
sir.
me just say that even Professor Chomsky, who is on the faculty at MIT, has publicly stated that basically MIT is a front organization for the Pentagon, and most of its money comes from the Pentagon. In the case of biowarfare, we know for the fact that the Harvard-MIT Broad Institute helped set off the Black West African Ebola campaign, pandemic, with some type of GMO'd biowarfare organism over there, and then tried to cover it up with an article in Science magazine that I publicly debunked in 15 minutes.
Sure, it's just like them now saying that ISIS built its own Stinger missiles And at the bottom of the article, it said they got them from the U.S. It's like, oh, you know, this weaponized thing just appears. This Stinger missile just appeared. This Zika just appeared. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, that's correct. I've added it all up, and the United States government has spent $100 billion, $100 billion at least, on researching biological weapons since 9/11/2001. Now, to give you an example, in constant dollars, the Manhattan Project to develop the atom bomb costs $40 billion. So we're already over twice, 2.5 times as much. So it's clear that the United States government is running an offensive biological warfare program. Indeed, it goes back at least to the Reagan administration, as I documented in my book.
It's mega massive, it's underground, and what do you think its goals are?
Well, I think we're seeing it with respect to the Black West African Ebola pandemic.
Pop control, destabilization?
Now the Latin American Zika pandemic against blacks and browns down there. This is population control and reduction.
Is it in the sectors because it's more equatorial in the viral spread, or is it, you're saying, race-specific, that it's more effective in preliminary research against people with dominant bloodlines?
Well, I'm not saying it is race-specific, this GMO organism, but rather
targeted racially specific.
They are using Ebola and Zika against people of color in third world countries.
Yes,
and this goes all the way back to the Nixon-Kissinger infamous national security directive, saying
in fact, wasn't that 200? We can put it on screen. And we've got the Kissinger.
Yeah, I can't recall the exact number.
Yes, the Kissinger population control memorandum. And then we also have Dick Cheney in the PNAC document, who's in the Austin American Statesman, calling for the legitimization of using race-specific bioweapons.
That's correct. And I believe, so I'm not saying that the Zika virus or the Ebola virus was race-specific, but genetically engineered to be race-specific. But both have been used against people of color, blacks in Africa, and browns. And of course, we know there are a lot of blacks down in Latin America, especially in Brazil. And I believe this is what is going on, that these are being used for that purpose.
Yes, that is National Security Study Memorandum 200, National Security Council, Washington, D.C., code number 02506, April 24th, 1974, about a month and a half after I was born.
Right, and you also mentioned the outbreak of swine flu in Ukraine. There is a U.S. biowarfare facility there, and we know that swine flu is a genetically engineered triple chimera. So even President Putin and their new national security directive have publicly accused the United States government of waging biological warfare against them, and I believe that is a correct conclusion from what I can see, yes.
Well, sure, in Kissinger's memorandum, he says we can't have peace and free market breaking out in these countries. We've got to destabilize them, hurt them, poison them, ship our toxic waste there, bioweapon them. And that's why people say, you know, why do you hate Henry Kissinger? Folks, we have their memorandums. They write books.
Let me point out, I deliberately went through the same PhD program at Harvard that produced Kissinger and Brzezinski before me. And they gave me Kissinger's old office at Harvard Center for International Affairs. So you have to understand I would say, Nazi mentality that people at Harvard had. I mean, let's look at President Obama. He was behind me at Harvard Law School, and Obama has the entire country being run by Harvard Law School mafia. You can have Samantha Power there, our problem from hell at the UN. Zahran Klein.
Sure, they are the dominant breeding ground for the intelligentsia, and you were in the middle of their highest level, basically secret program. You've covered that before, and I want you to get back into it sometime in a whole show, but specifically being around them, what percentage of them are eugenicists? I know the Chicago Business School is phase one fascism and Machiavelli, and then Hegelian dialectic being used for evil purposes, and then you go to Harvard and they give you the technicals and how the government really works. But I mean, what percentage do you think really understand just how murderous the ultimate plan is?
Well, you're correct. I went to the University of Chicago as an undergrad. I was top of my class there and graduated in 3 years and won the Sigma Xi Certificate of Merit and Prize in Biology. And then Harvard Law School and the Harvard PhD program. The brainwashing system is extremely effective. Mitt Romney, for example, back in those days, we called him Will. He and I were 1Ls together at Harvard Law School. We took all of our first-year courses together. So it's exceedingly rare for people to come out of these elite programs and not to have been brainwashed along these lines. Again,
sure, I mean, it's also when the devil offers you all this power, like Albert Speer said, who was respected by people and wasn't really an evil guy overall. He said, look, when the devil's got his warm arm around you, he doesn't look like the devil. You know, when Hitler was putting his arm around him. And I think that's part of it is the elite comes and says, we want you to join us because you're smart and you're one of us. Most people go, okay.
That's correct. And the people who run this country are, the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and all the rest of them. They understand full well that they need the brain power of middle class, lower class people. So they go out and get them wherever they can find them and effectively bribe them and say, well, here's some money, here's some power. But we want you to go out there and run the empire for us and do whatever dirty work you have to do. And again, the primary case in point is President Obama, who, again, both he and his wife were behind me at Harvard Law School. As a matter of fact, we even had the same jurisprudence teacher there, Roberto Unger, who was recently on the BBC and said, quote, Obama is a disaster, unquote. But Professor Unger, there weren't too many people like that at Harvard Law School when I was there. And since I left, it has moved far to the neocon right, where you have large...
What's the best way to describe it? Fascist?
Torture.
What's the best way to describe these people? Power-tripping, technocratic fascists? What's the best term?
Machiavellians, yes. This is university. I spent 10 years at the University of Chicago and Harvard, and it's basically brainwashing in Machiavellianism. As for the scientists, they're basically told there's really no ethical dimensions here to what you're doing. This is just science. It's a puzzle. And you
sure, don't they just tell them also, we have to have the most deadly thing in case somebody else makes it. We've got to know how to fight it.
That's correct. That's what the $100 billion that the U.S. government has spent.
BioShield.
Biological weapons is all about. And the trillions of dollars we have spent on nuclear weapons since the Manhattan Project.
It's madness. In the time we have left, sir, what is the best website, the best book? You've written so many books for folks to read. What's the latest?
Well, I gave an interview to Sherwood Ross, an investigative reporter, that I think I sent to your staff that updates my book. So if you get the book and that interview with Sherwood Ross I gave last fall before the Zika pandemic, that will pretty much bring everything up to date.
All right, we will post that article under this video.
Epidemic.
We will post that as it gets up tonight and tomorrow at Infowars.com. Biowarfare and Terrorism, Francis A. Boyle in the update article. Of course, you expose the anthrax being an inside job and the rest of it. We only got 45 seconds left. Pretty big deal having Obama and the Republicans try to pass that Total War Powers Act that even Democrats call martial law. Did you see that, sir?
I did. I've read it by Lindsey Graham, and there'll be no end. We'll be waging war all over the world under that, for the next 40 or 50 years.
Sure, but to put it on paper is unprecedented. I mean, this is unbelievable.
It really is, and it'll be just like George Orwell's 1984. In fact, that is what we're living right through now.
Yeah, we're entering it. That's right. The final
domestically and internationally, and everyone should reread Orwell's 1984.
Yes, sir. The final twilight of liberty is here. We have to bring back the day, but I don't know if we can. Thank you, sir. Have a great weekend. We're going to come back in the fourth hour. The Anthony Gucciardi, but I have more to say.